You are welcome once again. We have discussed about fertilizers, and we have also discussed about the factors that will enable us get bountiful or bumper harvest in our farms. So today I want us to look at fertilizer application. Fertilizer application is a very vital topic that we'll have to address to enable you know what to do, because remember, it all starts from the fertile soil. So you need to know how to make your soil fertile. It is your duty as a farmer to know. It is not enough for you to assign your products or resources in the hands of hand managers or farm workers without you knowing what is happening on the farm. So quickly, there are a lot of questions. Which fertilizer should I use on my crop and why? Which fertilizer should I use on maize? Should I use on rice? Should I use on legumes or my trees? Now, before applying fertilizer, you need to consider the 4 R's in fertilizer application, which are the right source, the right amount, the right time, and the right placement. Quickly, let's look at the right source. When we're talking about the right source, which is the first one on the first R of fertilizer application, we are talking about the right fertilizer for the right soil crops. Just like how I have said, you should know the fertilizer that you should apply to your maize, to your yam. And I want to tell you that fertilizer application is determined mostly by the soil on which you are applying fertilizer upon. The determination comes as a result of your soil testing. After you must have done your soil testing and have known that in this portion of land, what I need more is nitrogen or potassium or phosphorus. Remember, we deal more of the macro nutrient than the micro. So after knowing that your soil needs nitrogen in a higher proportion, the test result will now determine if you should use 27, 13, 13. The past government, what they do is they help carry out soil test as a government, so they determine that this region, this is the fertilizer that is good on this crop. It's a project that the government has embarked on long time ago, 1990s. The records are there. But now it has become a norm that people feel 27, 13, 13 fertilizers, NPK fertilizers are for yams. Then 15, 15 fertilizers are for maize. No, it is not so. It's not supposed to be so. It is a soil requirement. That same soil you can plant, if it is a water, you plant, if it needs nitrogen more, and you give it less nitrogen, give it 15, 15 instead of 27, 13, 13, that same soil that you planted maize, it will make you to get low yield. It will make you to get low yield. You understand? So always carry out your soil testing to determine what your soil needs in that area. Or if proven result, experiment, though some farmers, they use their soil over time. So experience is also a very good teacher. Experience is science. So if you have seen that in that area, this is the type of fertilizer they have been using, and it served them very well, you can simply request that same type of fertilizer from your vendor, and he will give you that same fertilizer. Or you can request for that blend if you are contacting a blending plant. Okay, now That is for the right source. I hope you understand the meaning of the first R, which is the right source. Right source. And then there are crops like the legumes crops, which demands more of phosphorus and less of nitrogen, because they are nitrogen releasing crops. They don't need nitrogen. If you should introduce nitrogen to them, they will grow so leafy without producing fruit. And the aim is to get fruits, not for you to see your crops that they are leafy, they are green, they are looking nice, like vegetables. No, for phosphorus, for legumes crops, you reduce the amount of nitrogen. In fact, some people demand you even give 0, 46, and maybe 5 for the overall health, but you take out nitrogen. So fertilizers like the SSPs are best for legumes. Why? For grasses like rice, maize, and those other grasses and vegetables, NPK fertilizers are best for them. You know, NPK nitrogen is there, urea fertilizer is there. So the right amount. Also, the right amount is sent goes hand in hand with right source. Before you determine the right amount of fertilizer to apply to your crop, make sure you carry out a soil test to know the amount of fertilizer nutrient that is lacking to your crop. But there is a standard amount of fertilizer that is required to grow a particular crop. There is a standard amount of nutrient requirement per crop. Take for instance, you cannot apply the same amount of fertilizer you apply to a stand of rice to a stand of maize, because you know that maize require more. That is why when we go to the last one, which is right placement, the method of application in rice is not the same with the method of application in maize. So you make sure you carry out your soil test to determine the right amount of nutrient fertilizer to apply to the soil. But if you are talking about quantity in application, that is where you say, okay, you can introduce a cock full to a particular stand, or let's say pepper and tomato, or you can use a cutter hand to fetch and introduce to your crops. Next, which will take us to right time. Right time. It is best you apply your fertilizer when your soil is moist and when the temperature is cool, not just the soil, the temperature. Because sometimes it will rain and then the next thing you see, a heavy sun will come out. If you apply your fertilizer at that point, you should know that it will cause injury to your crops. That is why it is advised that you apply your fertilizer before planting. During your soil preparation, you make sure your fertilizer is available in the soil, so that when the rain falls on it, it neutralizes the fertilizer. It makes it readily available for your crops to pick immediately, so that even when the sun comes, the fertilizer chemicals will not have much effect on your crops. Different stages, different nutrient requirements. Yes, that is why at planting stage, it is advisable you use fertilizers, slow releasing fertilizers at planting stage. If you can introduce organic fertilizers at the planting stage to improve your soil nutrient, what will happen? There are slow releasers of nutrients, and they will be available in the soil for long period of time. What you will just need is to be adding up the nutrients. You know that nutrients are like food, like humans eating food. Whenever you eat, you get hungry. It's not as if you eat once and then you stay till you grow and become a full man. You eat from intervals. It is the same thing with crops. They eat at every minute. The cells in the plant requires this nutrient at every point in time. At every point in time. That is why we have to make this nutrient available. If there are shortage of this nutrient, you will discover that some signs, some sick signs, just like how human, if a human is not feeding well, you will see those symptoms, such as in crops, you will see stunted growth. So, same thing with humans, you will see kwashiorkor and also stunted growth. That should take us to our next 4 hours, which is the right placement. At the right placement, this is a stage where you talk about the method of application. Deep side dressing. Deep side dressing. Deep side dressing is when you, just like how I was introducing, you take your, make sure you wash your hand after tampering with this. You take your handful of fertilizers and then you introduce at the base of your crop, or you broadcast, but it is not in every farm that you have to broadcast. If you should broadcast your fertilizers in your yam farm, you are causing wastage. Weeds will pick on them. But if you should broadcast in rice, rice grow as a grain, and they are scattered all over the farm. So in farmlands like rice, you use broadcasting methods. Why in crops like maize, tomatoes, pepper, yam, you deep side dress, you dress them, and then like banding on hips. You have hips and ridges. Banding is the best method you use on hips and even ridges. When you make a hole beside your crop and then you introduce fertilizers in the holes. The advantage of banding is it prevents nutrient loss, and it helps neutralizes the fertilizer, because when you put and you cover, it's hard for the sun, for the heat outside to react on the fertilizer. They are covered down there and then it helps run off and leaching. It is there in the soil. Once rain falls and it washes down and meets the fertilizer, it will dissolve and it will get distributed on the root, through the root of the plant. So these are the major fertilizer application tips that you should know. Other methods like the foliar methods, that is spraying on leaves, or fertigation for people that do drip irrigation system, introducing the fertilizers into the water that is being distributed across the plants. But these are the major right source. I know that many of you were like, you just want to know how to put fertilizer. No, you have to start from there. The right source, the right amount, the right time, the right placement. This is how to farm right. That is how to farm right. It is not just about doing it. It is about doing it right. Make sure you do it right, because we want you to succeed in agriculture. See you on the brighter side of harvest.